Welcome back to the Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation, where we explore key issues and compelling stories in the trucking industry. I'm your host, Dayton Rumbold, and you're listening to episode 115, From Principal to Probation Officer to Professional Driver, The Life of Ken Bugler. Ken was a probation officer for 34 years, and at the age of 71, he decided to become a professional driver. To learn more about Ken and his amazing story, please tune in to this featured exchange. Welcome back to the Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation, where we explore key issues and compelling stories in the trucking industry. I'm your host, Dayton Rumbold, and we're doing a deep dive with Ken Bugler today. So excited to have the one, the only Ken Bugler.
There you go, only one, which is a good thing.
Are there any other Ken Buglers in the world?
Not that I'm aware of. Bugler is not a very well-known name, so there aren't very many of us around, quite frankly.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, where's the Bugler name come from?
My dad was obviously a bugler, and he was born in England.
Okay.
But from what I've learned is that bugler I thought was English. It's not.
Oh, really?
It's German.
It's German.
Go figure that one out. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm Rumbold, so I got some German blood in me. I'll return to there sometime. You ever been to Germany?
No, never have been. My dad was born and raised in England, and he had gone back for a visit. He had an uncle that was still living, and so he had gone back to spend some time with him and just tour around England at that point. But that was the only time he's been there, because he's been, he left there, I think, when he was like 5 years old. He came to the States at that point. And so
yeah, that's awesome.
That's how I got here.
That's how you got here. Yeah, we'll talk more about that.
Okay.
But the details of Ken's story is really cool. You were a probation officer for 34 years. Yes. That's incredible alone. But you also were a principal for a Christian school, and you also drove a Greyhound bus for a little bit.
Yeah, well, it wasn't Greyhound, but that type of bus. Yes.
That type of bus. Yes. Sorry, but so you've dabbled in some things, and you talk about the similarities between being a probation officer and being a principal. Mm-hmm. There's some similarities there.
Yeah, similarities.
So excited to get into it. As an icebreaker, just to start us off, we have a deck of questions. If you want to shuffle that and take one there, and this will just prime us up for the episode.
Okay.
To get into it.
We'll just pick one on the top here.
Yeah.
All right. It says, if you could sing a duet with anyone, who would it be? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, boy.
That's a tough one. I don't know. There's a group that I like called Greater Vision, and they are a Southern Gospel group, and I really I listen to them all the time in the truck and everything else. There's a number of I use Pandora in the truck, and so I put it on Christian music stuff all the time, and that's one of the groups that comes on oftentimes, and so I really like them, and I try to sing with them. I sing.
Oh, wow.
I try to sing bass. I'm not very good at it.
Bass line?
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun.
A cappella?
No, they have background music.
Oh, okay.
I've actually seen them live a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah, but of course when they've got the music there, it's all taped music, so they're just singing with the music that they've got taped.
Singing over it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You can pull it off.
Well, I'm not sure about that part.
So you're from Bloomington, Indiana?
Right now I live in Bloomington, Indiana, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me more about living in Bloomington, Indiana.
Well, I think it's very similar to probably what we have here in Bloomington, Illinois. It is a college town, obviously, so there's a lot of the things that we do there are college related in some form, some fashion. I am not a basketball fanatic at all.
Yeah.
I have gone to some games because I've had free tickets, but I won't buy them. I'm just not into the basketball that much.
Sure.
I like to listen just so I can kind of keep track of what's going on when I have conversations with other people. But and it's fun to watch, but I'm just not a fan. I'm more of a football fan than I am basketball. So I've gone to a number of football games in the IU Stadium.
Yeah.
What cracks me up about that is that when they have pictures of the stadium from the air, usually, and they have the sea of red, right? Of red and white.
Yeah.
It's when they're playing, ready for this, Ohio State.
Oh, boy.
Because they're the same colors.
Yeah.
And so you got the stands are loaded. If it's not Ohio State, the stands aren't that full.
Yeah.
And so they got to make it look good.
Yep.
So they bring Ohio State in, and that's when they take their pictures.
That's when they take the
It
picture of
cracks
the
me
aerial.
up. Yeah, it does. Cracks
That's
me
cool.
up.
Yeah, it's really close by, so people just hop the border and they're in there.
That's exactly right.
That's cool. Yeah, there's some similarities between Bloomington, Indiana, and Illinois.
Mm-hmm. True.
Lots of more covered bridges.
In Indiana,
yes. Yeah.
I didn't even know they had any here in Illinois.
Yeah, I don't know if they do.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then they also, taxes are a little bit better, Indiana.
Yeah, probably so from what I've heard.
Maybe.
I mean, my parents both grew up in Oak Park.
Okay.
That's how they actually met each other, was in
really?
Oak Park, Illinois.
Yeah.
So we used to come up here. Are you ready for this one? Do you know what oleo is?
Oleo?
Uh-huh.
Should I guess?
If you want to.
Oleo is a sports store.
Nope. Oleo is actually margarine.
Oh,
Instead of being butter,
I was really
it's
off.
margarine. Yes. But the reason they came down and would get it from here, not only would we visit with my grandmother, but they came up because the oleo was colored yellow. When you bought it in Wisconsin, it was just white.
Okay.
And they wanted the color.
They wanted the color
So
oleo.
that's when we came up here. We'd get oleo and take that back. And
that's how they bet.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
There's a story for everyone.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty weird. Well, it was a good reason to come up here because you know we could be able to see Grandma and spend time with her. Get the oleo and then head back home again.
Okay. Does the oleo taste better than the non-colored?
I don't think it made any difference in terms of color, what it tasted like.
Okay.
I just think it had to do with the color. That's pure and simple. I mean, to me, oleo is oleo, whether it was white or going to be yellow.
Yeah.
So it didn't make any difference from the flavor, but color.
Can you still get oleo?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll do some research after this.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let me know what you find out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, so I have a sister that lives in Indiana near the Fort Wayne area.
Yes.
So we were talking earlier about Amish country and covered wagons and so it's interesting stuff out there.
It is. I love it up there. It's so quiet and it's just so peaceful.
Yeah. When
you drive up in that area, and it's fun to watch the horse and buggies. Mm-hmm. And even south of Bloomington, there are a lot of Amish people living south of Bloomington. Yeah. So we get to see them down there sometimes as well. But they're bigger population or community up in the northern part of the state.
Okay. Yeah, make sure to comment if you're Amish and listening to this podcast. Maybe. So
you never know.
Maybe someone has this on their speaker in their car.
It could be.
Pass by.
Although they don't drive cars.
Oh, sorry. They pass by in their buggy.
In their buggies.
In their buggy.
There you go.
They hear it and it's like, I'll make sure to comment.
There you go.
So tell me about getting into being a probation officer and doing that for 34 years. I'm sure you have lots of stories, but how did you get started doing that?
Well, in all honesty, I started out my career as a teacher in a Christian school.
Oh, yeah.
And I taught there for 3 years, and it was a very small school. I started teaching 3rd and 4th grade, and I loved that. It was a great group of kids to work with. But I actually, in all honesty, had some trouble with getting down on their level, especially when it came to to math. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, I had gone into my principal's office at one point and said, hey, I really, really enjoy that group, but I'm having trouble down there. And so I asked him if I could move into a different level, so I moved into the high school side. Yeah. In fact, I had my first year on that level, I had one senior. And so when I had him in class, when we started, I said, well, you're going to be only getting C's in here because I go on the bell curve and you're it. So that was kind of fun to do that with him. Yeah. But so I actually started out there at first. And then during that 3-year period, I had also talked to my principal and said, okay, now I want to make sure this is clear. We were very good friends at this point. And so I went into his office one time, at the same time, actually, this is the same time. I said, how can I make more money in this chicken outfit?
That's what you told him.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
The same words.
Yes,
everything.
exactly. How do I make more money in this chicken outfit? So he told me that the thing to do is go and get my master's degree.
Okay.
And so I did go to Grace Seminary up in Winona Lake, Indiana, and I went through their master's program. It was every summer for 3 years. I went up there and worked towards my master's and got my master's done in 3 years. And at that point, I believe that. Let me go back and say this too: that during the time I started doing my teaching, my uncle had a church in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he actually wanted me to come up there. He actually asked me 3 times to come up, and I refused the first two times because I just didn't feel prepared for the things he wanted me to do.
What type of things?
Well, one was to teach, and I knew that the school he had required me to be a certified teacher, and I was not certified. The school that I had in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, was not, didn't require that, but in Ann Arbor they did require that, and I didn't have that certification. So that was the first time. The second time he wanted me to come and be a youth pastor. Okay. And at that point, I didn't feel qualified to do that. I just didn't feel like I was ready to deal with teenagers that much. Yeah. Even though I was teaching high school at that point, it was a little bit different.
It seems like you would have some of those skill sets, though.
Yes, and I could see that. I could see that, but I just didn't feel qualified at that particular point. Sure. Because I knew him, I knew what he required, and I just was a little bit timid, maybe at that point. Sure. So I went and got my master's degree, and that was at that point I thought, well, okay, now it's time to start looking. So I actually found a school that would allow me to principal, and that was the one in Ann Arbor. My uncle asked me to come back or come up there, and I didn't feel like I had any excuses any longer. God is saying, it's time. And so I went, and I was became the principal of the school there.
Okay, wow.
And I also was considered to be the youth pastor. That was a tough role. Wow. Because I'm trying to, in one case, I've got to be their friend, and most of the kids that were in my youth group were in the school, and so I had to be their friend as a youth pastor, but I had to be a disciplinarian on the other side as a youth pastor or as a principal. Wow. So that was tough. That was a tough role to deal with.
It's like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Turn one side, and then you turn the other side.
Exactly. And I hate to say it, but almost being two-faced, you know.
Sure.
So that was tough, and so they finally decided to take me out of the youth pastor role, and I stayed in the school as a principal, and that was good. I enjoyed that, but the pastor left, and they brought somebody else in, and quite frankly, he was not Christian school oriented at all. And it was very clear when they were seeking the new pastor, we had a picnic, and so I got some time with him to kind of find out some things about his view on Christian education and that kind of thing. And it was very clear that he was not as strong for the Christian school movement. In fact, he did not have his daughter in our school.
Oh, okay.
And she was high school age, and so that it wasn't going to work out very well for us. And so it was very evident that the school was going to close. And so I began to look for another school.
So before you move on there, I wanted to ask a little bit more about being the youth pastor and that teacher. Did you feel like that role, did you like that role?
No, I wasn't a teacher. I was a principal.
Sorry, the principal. There. Sorry.
Did I like the role together? No. I didn't. I really felt like it was actually too much. And again, just the dichotomy of how I had to handle the kids in different ways, that was tough for me to do. And so that's why I didn't ask for the change. I think they just sensed it, would be my guess. But bottom line is they had somebody else come in as the youth pastor. In fact, one of my teachers became the youth pastor, and I stayed on as a principal. So, yeah. Well, I mean, that I can see how your skills are slowly building, though. Like over time, you're getting more equipped for the future, and we don't know. Like you look now, you don't. What's the next 5 years have in front of you? We don't know. Exactly.
But it is interesting.
But God knows, and He prepares.
He does, and He prepares you for what you have going on.
Certainly.
And I can see that as we talk.
Well, when we get to Nussbaum, it'll be even more interesting from that perspective too. We'll get there.
How will that even work?
We'll
How do you are you a truck driver?
Yes.
Are you really?
Yes.
No.
73 years old, and I just started driving trucks
No.
3 years ago. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Do you want me to get to that part of it?
No, we'll wait.
Okay,
We'll wait.
okay.
But I love the story. I love it. 73 years in
73
truck
years
driving.
old now, and so I was 71 when I started driving.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Scary.
Scary?
No, not really.
No. All right. So the school is closing down. You know the future is coming. That the
I
school
can see
is
the
closing
future is
down.
coming. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I began looking for another school, and a school invited me to come in Ann Arbor or in Bloomington. That's when I moved to Bloomington, Indiana. It was a K-12 program, and they were looking for somebody, obviously. So I came down and interviewed, and they accepted me. So I went into the school, and.
As a principal?
As a principal.
Okay.
Now I did some teaching, but most of it was administrative stuff.
Yes.
We were using a church facility at that particular point. We were an independent school, but we were housed in a church. And one of the things that I was learning were people were associating us with the church, and there was nothing wrong with the church. It was a great church, but we were not a church school. We were an independent school.
Yeah.
And I thought it was important for us to be able to find our own place and try to develop our school that way. And so I was trying to encourage them to look for property, or there was actually a school in Michigan that I wanted them to go go with me to look at, because I knew how they had gotten their property together. I knew how they had built the facility, and I thought they could see that. They could see the possibilities. Well, they never got on the same page with me. In fact, when I was in Ann Arbor, we had all kinds of policies for the teacher, for me, for my secretary, whatever. We had policies.
Right.
I couldn't get a policy approved there at that school for some reason. And so
it just got denied.
Yeah,
or?
they just weren't interested. I'd come in with policies written and to look at, to review, and we just never really could get there. And so it was very clear that there was a problem there as well. So I was only there for 2 years. But during that time, I had a couple in my school that she was a probation officer. Her husband was a judge. And they knew my background, and so they thought I would be a good fit for juvenile position, working as a juvenile probation officer, because one of the things they were lacking was somebody who had a background in education to help with the public schools in Bloomington. So that was what kind of was the big target that they were looking for, and I fit that target.
Yeah. So that was the catalyst.
That was the catalyst.
Okay.
Yes. So I had interviewed and obviously was accepted, and I was there for 34 years. I was only the juvenile probation officer. I was actually a supervisor when I went in. I knew nothing. I mean nothing about probation at all when I first got there.
So supervisor, what is
the
that?
Juvenile division.
What does that entail?
Well, that meant I was supposed to be supervising, I think, 4 other officers that I had under me that were all probation officers.
Wow.
I had no skills. I obviously had the.
You had skills.
I had the skills, but not the knowledge that I needed to do that work necessarily.
Yep.
So it was an on-the-job training for me. I mean, from day one, I had my own caseload as well.
Wow. That
was a whole wide wow thing for me. And so it was interesting. I ended up moving to the adult side. We had a new assistant probation officer that came in, chief probation officer that came in. And I think that they felt at that point that we had too many supervisors. Okay. And I think that the Board of Judges actually said, we need to do something about that. And so since I was the newest one on that staff, that part of the staff of supervisors, that I was kind of moved down. Okay. So I went down to the juveniles, to the adult side, and I was just a regular probation officer. I wasn't a chief or assistant chief or a supervisor of any kind. I just did adult supervision. Okay. And I felt more comfortable with that, simply because when talking about the kids, everything was really more parent oriented than it was working with the kids. And And there were consequences were tough. I mean, I had a good judge. I mean, I really liked the judge I had to work with.
You liked working with your judge.
I did, because she was a no-nonsense judge.
Yeah.
She said something, she meant it.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, I felt very comfortable. But on the other side, there's not a lot of stuff that you can do with them, And the consequences are a lot quicker when you're dealing with an adult.
Yep.
You don't behave yourself, you go back to jail. Now, whether that's going to be a fully executed sentence and serve the whole time in jail or not, but the bottom line is at least you had that as a big tool that you could use. We had other things before going to court, but that was an easier thing to do.
Yeah.
So I actually worked in that side of the department for a lot longer. For 32 years, I was an adult probation officer.
Okay, so working with that adult side more.
Yes.
And even though it seems like you have some gifting towards working with kids.
Yep. So I had some. Yeah. But again, I think it was just a whole lot easier to work with the adults. So I won't go any further than that with that.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
But I was there, and I really enjoyed the work. I really enjoyed the work. The neat thing about that was I couldn't do anything from a spiritual perspective there.
Sure.
Unless they brought something up. If they brought something up, my goodness, the doors were wide open. And I would take those opportunities to talk to them about the Word.
Did that come up much?
Not very often. But it doesn't take many times,
Yeah.
I know how many seeds I left, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never saw anybody really make a decision. But the bottom line is, at least it opened the door for me to talk.
Yeah, definitely.
And there were things like when we were talking about people who were needed to go through some kind of rehab and trying to find new friends, because that's part of rehab is you've got to get away from the people that you were dealing with in the past.
Yeah.
Change your friends. And so I would use going to church as one thing that they could do is go to a church, get locked in, get to know people there, and grow from that perspective. And so that was another thing I would always use, but it wasn't being able to talk about Jesus as such. But if they opened the door, I walked through it, and I was not. I was very bold about it.
Yeah,
it never got me in trouble because they were the ones bringing it up, and so that was always fun.
Yeah,
I like that part of that.
You're not going to regret having that conversation.
Never,
with someone.
Never regret it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I never saw anybody make a change that I'm aware of. But again, who knows? Only God knows. And I will someday find out.
Yeah, absolutely, and we won't see that until
we get to glory.
Until we get to glory.
That's right.
Until the Lord comes and
that's right.
We're with Him, and it'll be amazing to see how the small things that we did, maybe in secret, that will come to light.
Exactly. Ray Boltz had a song about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's basically the same kind of thing where a guy goes to heaven. I'm not going to go into the whole details, but the guy goes to heaven, and somebody sees him. They go up there. You don't know me, but Sunday school teacher. You were my Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And every time you'd open up with prayer. And as a result of that, I came to know Jesus.
Wow.
And then it's about going to a missionary conference and how he gave money for the missions and how that affected some people. And by the time he got done, there were crowds of people that had a relationship with Jesus as a result of him, and that's to me that was a really exciting story.
Yeah,
an exciting song, and so you just don't know what the impact you're going to have. And so I go back and think, okay, it'll be fun to see how many people I had contact with. That
and it's
change.
Inspiring when I think about my work today, and for the people listening, the work that you're doing today, there's the potential to affect other people, like you will affect other people. And how is that helping? And thinking that, maybe like Ken, you shared about Jesus to someone and they shared it with their grandson and then they heard it, and so you're the great grand spiritual father of someone.
Could be. You never know.
So you never know with that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Working in the probation as a probation officer, do you feel like people were at a place of change? Like when they came in, was it a time of redefining for people, or was it just, I'm going to get in and get out?
The vast majority get in and get out, I think. But I did see a good number of people change. I don't want to go into too much detail about what my caseload was like, but it was the tough caseload. People didn't want my job. And so I found it very interesting that from that perspective, the kind of offenders that I worked with, people did not like. I found it as a challenge. I like working with them, and I do know that a lot of those guys came in. I worked with them, and I never saw them again.
Yeah.
Other ones, sometimes you'd see some of them come back in the system, but not the caseload I had. I didn't see much of a recidivism, which was really good for from that perspective. So I took I really felt like I was making a difference with that since I didn't see them coming back in.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not sure where else to go with that at this particular point, but
yeah.
it was good. I enjoyed working with these guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I made some difference in some of their lives.
Yeah, and you had some tough cases.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yes. I do remember one specific guy that had come in and he had messed up on probation, and I had worked with him numbers of times and trying to do different things with him so he wouldn't have to go back to jail. But it took him a while before I finally said, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And so we had gone to court, and at the end of our session, the judge did put him back in jail. And so he's going to be serving, I forget, probably 10 years. I mean, it was a long time he was going to go back to prison
right.
for. And so before he walked out of the courtroom, he turned to me, he said, "Thank you.
Wow.
I thank you for what you did."
Wow.
He said, "You were good to work with."
Wow.
Great. And I appreciated that. Most of them don't do that. But there were just a couple that came back or would call me afterwards. And actually it had a couple people that would call me back and say, "How you doing? How you doing?" And I'm great. How are you doing?
Yeah.
And so it was good to be able to have them call me back. They weren't in any trouble. They just wanted to talk again. So there were rewards like that.
That's amazing.
It was.
It doesn't happen that often. But
not often, but it doesn't take very many. There's just enough of a kick in the bottom to say, "Keep it up. You're doing a good job."
You're doing a good job.
Yeah. Exactly.
That is amazing, and I can see that how you really take that to heart. And they say with social media and everything today, entertainment, that we hear so many messages from the world around us, and the most compelling messages we get today are from relationships.
That's right.
From people.
That's right.
And the people you spend the most amount of time with, the people you interact with a lot, like those are going to be the most defining moments.
Exactly.
More than any social media post, more than any video I can show you, are relationships.
Exactly.
And you build those relationships.
And one of the sad part of that today is that we are seeing less and less of that happening, and so they don't know how to interact with people.
Yeah.
But yeah, building relationships is so key.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
So
and I can see you got a knack for that. It's fun. You do a good job of telling jokes and making things light and getting to know people.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. So before we talk about trucking and how you got into trucking, can you tell me a little bit more about the cases you worked? I know that's confidential, not to go into any details, but can you tell me more about when you were there, and did you have any more interactions with people you got to know, or?
Well, one of the things that the clients I had needed to go through therapy, and there was a special kind of therapy that they would be involved with. And so there was a facility actually located up in Indianapolis, but I had the counselor coming down to Bloomington to do the therapy for us. And the neat thing is that this guy was also a Christian guy. And so he and I would get together, and we would spend a lot of time together just talking about the clients to do some work that way. But we'd also just enjoy just being together and talking about the Lord, what God was doing in our lives too. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's where you want me to go with that or not.
No,
because there's really a lot.
That's okay.
I said I can't really talk about too much of that kind of stuff.
And that's just a curious question.
Sure.
I was just like, is there anything else? I always like to give room for people to speak in case there is something, and we don't want to miss that later.
Sure.
So.
Well, one of the things that they always closed with was the now that you were asking me, I can't remember what we call it. It's a prayer that AA uses all the time. And it's the same.
Help me is it the, oh man, Daniel, you're going to have to edit this out.
I know, I'm forgetting what it is too.
Is it the peace, help me control the things that I can control, and
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm having a hard time with it myself
That's
right now
okay.
for some reason. But yeah.
Tell me how you got into trucking.
Okay.
What did that look like?
I've always been kind of interested in trucks. I don't know why. I've always driven something. I drove school buses for a while. As I mentioned earlier, I drove the Greyhound type buses for a while. I was shuttling people back and forth between Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I lived, and O'Hare Airport, so I was driving that kind of a vehicle there. I just always been kind of fascinated with driving. My dad was a big driver. He liked to drive, and so I liked to drive. And so there was a camaraderie, I guess, from that perspective. But anyway, so I've always had this interest. About 25 years ago, I met a guy. And we got to be pretty close, pretty good friends. And he actually came up here and was actually driving for Nussbaum. Just started driving for Nussbaum. He was actually working. I have a swimming pool in the backyard, and he built decks.
Okay.
And so that was another thing that he came to my home. We hired him to build a deck for me around my swimming pool. Yeah. So he would come, I would work with him, and we would build this deck. Well, he also was driving, okay?
He builds decks and he drives
semi-trucks.
Semi-trucks.
For Nussbaum.
Oh, for Nussbaum.
For Nussbaum.
Whoa.
And he would take his wife with him.
Okay.
When he first started driving here.
Wow.
And there was a week where his wife wasn't going to be able to drive or ride with him for some reason. I don't know what was going on, but she couldn't go. Hey, you mind if I go with you, Rick? So he said, no, it'd be great. So I rode with him for a week. Well, we ended up coming up here for 2 days because he needed to have some work done on his truck.
Oh, okay.
And so he took me around, introduced me to a bunch of people. And that was really kind of cool. But then in the operations area, they have a wall that had their goal and the vision on it. And I read that thing and I thought, oh my goodness. I knew it was a Christian organization because he told, when we started driving, he said, you're going to like that place because he said, he didn't use the word Christian, but he said there are really a lot of religious people there.
Right.
And okay. Well, what do you know? I get here, and like I said, the vision statement and the mission statement were so outstanding.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was so excited to see that. And so one of the places we went to was over to the operations area not operations, to safety. And I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and talk to one of the recruiters.
Yeah.
So I talked to Caleb for a little bit.
Oh, good.
And so he gave me an application. I filled it out. Didn't expect to do anything with it, but I filled it out. And at that time, guess who's walking through? Brent Nussbaum. So Rich introduces me. And one of the things I was telling Brent about was how excited I was, not only about the goals and the vision, but to see your trailers, with faith and family on them. I thought that was outstanding.
Oh, wow.
We spent a lot of time talking about that. He kind of gave me a little bit of history, how that all started. And now today, to see the trailers we've got out there with Bible verses on them, I mean, it's just amazing to me how Christian-oriented this company really, really is. So anyway, that was kind of cool.
Yes.
So I get this call from Caleb, later afternoon. You're hired if you want the job. Well, Caleb, you know that I don't have my CDL.
Did Caleb know that?
Caleb knew that.
He knew that?
Yeah, because I was up front with him when I started that interview process, and I said, no, I don't have my CDL. We can work with that, no problem. Well, that same afternoon, I had been up in the driver's lounge, and Rich was doing something else. He was off someplace else. And so I was talking to a couple of guys that were up there. One of the guys that was up there was also from Indiana. And he had, I think he was from Terre Haute. And so I was talking to him about how he got a CDL. There's a school in Indiana called Vincennes University. It's a two-year college. And they offered in Indianapolis a CDL program.
Okay.
And so he suggested I, fill out an application for them. Well, CDLs are not cheap.
No.
So he suggested I go to what we call Work One, which is basically for people who are unemployed or looking to improve their skills or whatever else it might be. So, and he said he got his full ride from them. And so I went over there, filled out the application with that, and sure enough, I got a full scholarship for my CDL.
Wow. Full scholarship.
Full scholarship. And so I started with, and of course at this particular point, I'm telling Caleb what my schedule looked like, when I was going to be able to get started on that, and when I would be able, roughly when I'd be able to get done with the program, so I could come back and start working here. Well, I went through the program. I'm going to tell you this.
Flying colors, passed it.
No. The first time I took my road test, I did everything fine. I had just got done doing the backup, where you're backing into a spot, and I did great. The guy put up his thumb, so I had passed the test. Well, I just wanted to see how close to the end zone, where they had the cone, to see how close to the cone I was. So I got out of the truck, and right away he comes running over. You just failed. And I said, why did I fail? Because you got out of your truck.
No.
And I said, well, I just wanted to see how close I was to the cone. He said, you failed.
Wow.
Okay. So I had to take the test again. And that was, I couldn't do it right away, so I had to wait until I was able to do that. So I continued some more driving with Vincent. Excuse me. So I did a little bit more driving with them just to keep work on my skills.
Yeah.
So the next time I went back, same test, other side, and this time, now I want you to go back and say this. That when I would back in like this during all my training, I was probably 2 feet away from the cone every time. And so when I got done with this one, I touched the cone enough to tilt it just a little bit. I failed it because I made that tilt.
Oh, no.
Yes. So I had to do it a third test. This time I passed.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend that he's getting his license. He's international student.
Yes.
Came here, the ISU. And there's a lot of those rules, and I think it took a couple tries, and just regular license. And there's a lot of those small things.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you didn't, pay attention to this, and that's driving. That's driving in general.
Just a regular car, yeah.
But it's that much more difficult,
yeah.
to get your CDL.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
They're very picky.
Yes.
Very picky.
Yeah.
There's one place on the trip that they tell us very, very clearly, you're going to fail this part of it, because you have to make the turn you have to make is so wide. You're making a left-hand turn. It was so wide because of how they had the street constructed with a median there, and you had to get around that median without touching it, obviously. And so that particular spot, everybody feels it. But that doesn't, you can have some mistakes like that and be okay. And so everything else went fine that third time. Because I didn't even get on the road the first time. I mean, this is all done on the yard, so I never got on the road to do the road part of the test, actually. So that part I failed, but everything else was fine. So I passed it at that particular point.
And then you said, yeah,
so it just
did it.
Exactly. So that just delayed my starting here by a couple weeks.
Okay.
So I got here. But the thing that's kind of cool about this, that I never really thought about this until just recently. I mean, this literally just came up, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm thinking about my history and how I got here, right? And I'm thinking, something? Richard got me going on this.
Yeah.
God used Richard, not a Christian guy.
Yeah.
Good friend. We've talked a lot about Christ.
Right.
And my wife and I have talked to him and his wife a lot about the Lord, but he's not made a profession. But the bottom line is God was using him years ago to get me where I'm at today with Nussbaum.
Yeah, Rick the deck building guy.
Yes. I mean, think about that.
That is cool.
I had no clue. I never really saw that connection until, like I said, 4 or 6 weeks ago.
Oh.
I finally realized God was using Rick back then to get into my life to bring me to where I'm at today with Nussbaum.
Wow.
That is awesome.
That is awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah, just to figure that out was amazing. That's amazing. How stupid can I be?
I love that. And looking back to see those things.
Yeah.
It's often we do something and we, live our lives. We don't look back to see those moments.
Exactly.
And to thank God, for those moments. I love that. And it reminds me of the story of, it says in Genesis when Joseph was
Pharaoh?
He was Pharaoh.
Yeah, under Pharaoh? Yes. Yes.
Under Pharaoh, went through all these awful things. His brothers tried to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
He was thrown into prison. And he says later, what you meant for evil, God meant for good.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and not saying what happened to you was evil, but those things.
But the principles are there.
There was a plan.
Yes.
For those things.
Yes.
That you didn't see at the time.
And it'll be interesting when we get to heaven. We'll find out all the things that God was doing in our life to develop us in other areas that we're not even aware of. I think it's going to be kind of exciting from that perspective.
That is very cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that tidbit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you got the Nussbaum, and you've been driving for
2 years.
2 years?
Just a little bit over 3 years now, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
At 73 years of age.
Yep.
Which is unique in of itself.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think so. No, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it is. Kind of a whole brand new, era.
Good.
In my life to do that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too about that, a little bit more about that story,
Yes.
I guess, is that I can never say her name right. Works out in the front desk.
Tien.
I don't know why I can't pronounce her name right when I first want to come up with it. Well, Tien always was, I guess one of her jobs was if you were going to be a driver and you were married, she would call and make sure that was okay with your spouse.
Yeah.
To make sure that they were in favor of this, because truck driving requires you to be away from home a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And it needs to make sure that they're together. And I said, and so when I talked to her and she told me that she was going to do that, I said, well, you can go ahead and do that. She'll be more than happy to talk to you. But she's already told me, yeah, you got to do that. You got to do that. So she never called. Never called and talked to Cindy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never did, because she knew from the get-go that Cindy and I had talked about it, and she was all for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, that was kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Truck driving is a lifestyle.
It is.
It's not just a job.
Yeah,
it's
exactly
a lifestyle.
Right. You're exactly right.
So tell me about how you met your wife.
Well, this is my second wife. My first marriage ended in a divorce. I did not want that. I was very angry about the fact that she was unwilling to go through counseling with me, because I wanted to make it work, but it wasn't going to happen. She had made up her mind, and she was with some other guy at this point, and so that obviously was not going to happen. All right, now I ride motorcycle. Okay, and I had been attending a church, a different church than we go to now, but I started attending a church.
Okay.
And the pastor came up. I had been riding with him. There were a number of people that rode motorcycles.
You ride with your pastor?
Well, one of the assistant pastors at that point.
I'm trying to picture this.
Yeah.
Ken on a motorcycle riding with his pastor.
Well, that and other people that were in the church, we'd ride together.
Got it.
And so Rick came up to me, another Rick, by the way. Rick came up to me and said, there's a lady here that has on her bucket list. The big bucket lists were a big time thing at this point. Okay. Everybody had a bucket list.
I think it's still a big thing.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't hear much about it anymore. But anyway, Cindy had that on her bucket list.
Ride a motorcycle.
So would you be willing to take her on a ride with you? And I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. So I met Cindy. We made arrangements. In fact, there was another group that was going to go out. So I decided, we would just ride with them. And of course, the day we went was terrible. The weather was lousy. It was in July. It was cold. It was rainy. It was miserable. And everybody, I was just going to ride. I wasn't going to take any responsibility for where we're going, how we're getting there. But we wanted to go to some restaurant that was across the Ohio River. So we were going to be going into Louisville. But they didn't want to go directly down into, take I-65. They wanted to go back roads. Okay, that's cool. Well, we got down the river, and we didn't know which way to go. How are we going to get across? So some people had the map that told us we wanted to go east. Others had said that we want to go west. We couldn't agree. So we ended up going the wrong way. We went the wrong way. We went west instead of going east.
Okay.
So we were way late getting to the restaurant. Yes. And Cindy had already told me before we started that she had a friend that was getting married, and she wanted to be back by 5 o'clock so that she could go to not to the wedding itself, but to the reception. Yeah, we can do that. Shouldn't be a problem. Well, it was a problem, because by the time we got down to Louisville, we had lunch. It was way past time.
Oh, no.
And I had no idea where I was. I had no idea how to get back. And so another one of the girls that was riding with us that had her own bike took us back. She led us back to get back to Bloomington. Well, we got back really late.
Oh.
Well, Cindy and I still met at church. We still kind of met together and talked at school or at church.
Yeah.
We would call and talk to each other on the phone, that kind of thing. And so at one point, I think it was almost a year later, I was going to take a ride, first one in the spring. And I said, so I called her. I said, hey, I'm going to go for a bike ride. You want to go? Sure. So we went. And that was our first date.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
went.
Awesome.
We took a ride. Well, it was a decent ride. And we stopped in Nashville, Indiana. It's kind of a. Are you familiar with Nashville,
No,
Indiana?
I'm not.
It's just a bunch of shops.
Okay.
And I mean, it's just a bunch of shops.
Mini Nashville.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
And so we stopped there and had lunch. Just a nice, and it was outside. We were able to sit outside on the porch and have lunch together. It was really nice.
That sounds like a really nice first date.
It was. We had a lot of fun. And so that was our first date. It was. I think I'm sorry, Cindy. I can't remember exactly how long we dated, but we obviously continued to see each other at church. We did things together at church, sitting together all the time at church, and we had gone out a couple times together, doing different things. Well, at one point we had been talking about marriage a little bit, but nothing serious. So I thought, okay. I asked her if she wanted to go for a ride, not on a motorcycle. This is going to be in a car.
Oh.
And so I said, okay, let's just take a ride.
Yeah.
So I had planned to have, and told her we're going to I'm going to bring a picnic thing. So we're going to go have a picnic together.
Good idea.
And
I think she knows where this is going.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think
really?
she had
Okay.
a clue what was going to happen here.
All right.
So we got in the car. We drove. Now we have a big lake down there called Lake Monroe.
Okay.
It's a huge lake, and they've got it's actually a man-made lake. So we went down to a park that overlooks the dam where the lake starts with. And so I get everything set up. We have our meal, and we're standing along the railing, overlooking the lake. And so I brought out the ring.
Aw.
And I asked her if she wanted to marry me.
Wow.
And of course, she didn't say yes. This is the funny thing.
What'd she say?
Nothing.
Nothing.
She gets on her foot right away. Ken proposed. And so people are asking, what did you say? I said, yes. I said, no, you didn't. You didn't say yes. I just thought that was pretty funny,
That is. You told your friends you said yes, but you
Yeah,
didn't
she
tell
told
me.
her, never said yes to me.
Yeah.
I had actually asked her dad first
Okay.
if I could have her. We're adults at this
Yeah.
point. I don't need to ask her dad, but
Right.
I thought it was just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I took him out for a meal and said, Paul, would you, I'd like to marry your wife, your daughter.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to let me do that? And he said, without any question, he says, no take-backs. That's what he told me.
That was his response.
Yeah, that was his way of saying yes.
Yeah.
No take-backs.
Yeah.
See, Cindy had been married twice before that and had some bad experiences.
Sure.
Well, I had already spent a lot of time with the family, so they knew me pretty well, and so there was no question on Paul's part. And so, I thought that was another part of that story that was kind of comical. No take-backs.
No take-backs.
And I remind him of that sometimes.
You do?
Yeah. You
pull
I
it
have to-
out.
Yeah, I tell him about that sometimes. Remember when you said no take-backs?
No
Are you
take-backs.
sure?
Reconsider.
So,
Yeah.
and since then, we've been married now for 13 years.
13 years.
Yes, and that's been very, very good.
That's really special.
Yeah, it is. It's been very, very
A really neat story, too, on how you met.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's
I
cool.
like that.
We currently have, she has 2 kids, a boy that lives up in Westville, which is part of northern part of Indianapolis, so we're still in the area. She had a daughter that was living with her, and then she's got her sister lives in another community, New Palestine, which is also just east of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Her father lives in Columbus, which is kind of southeast. So her family is right there.
Yeah.
Cindy and I built a new house together.
Oh, wow.
I had a house, so we had moved into that house, and but we decided we want to get out of that area.
Yeah.
And we like to have the family over, and that house was small, so we just didn't have a lot of room there.
Sure.
To have gatherings with the family.
And you said don't want to buy a house, you want to build a house.
Yes, and we decided to build a log house.
Yeah.
So that's what we have.
Cool.
And we've been in the house, I think, now for 11 years.
Okay.
And that's been good. Well, in the meantime, her daughter then ended up had two kids.
Okay.
And so now they all live with us.
Cool.
And so I have got an 8-year-old grandson.
Wow.
I have a 7-year-old granddaughter
Wow.
that live with us.
Yeah.
What a hassle that is sometimes. It's a lot of fun. They are really good kids. They're very good kids. Chase, the boy, is just brighter than you can imagine. He's just a smart kid. He listens to a lot of stuff on YouTube that, I mean, just history. I mean, he just eats it up. He knows all kinds of things about the human body.
Wow.
Things that I can't believe what he's telling us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Now, a lot of it's been about Elvis Presley. I don't
he
know
goes
why.
on these kicks.
Yeah. I don't know why Elvis Presley. Well, now he's playing baseball.
Okay.
He just started baseball.
Okay.
In fact, he's had, well, I consider it 2 games. He considers it 3. So they were 1-2 right now.
Yeah.
No, they're 1-1. Now, they had 2 games that they've had as rainouts.
Yeah.
So they should be playing this afternoon today.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And so he, we go out and I'll bat the balls to him a little bit so we get some grounding, get some field experience. And, and then I pitch to him and let him do some hitting. And that's a lot of fun to do that with him. It really is.
That's really cool. And you guys live together.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about God preparing you for different moments. And I think that's another moment. We're talking about God prepared you to be a grandfather for these kids.
Yes, for these 2 kids, yes.
And that's big.
Well, I never expected that. I would have never in a million years expected that my stepdaughter would move in with us, let alone having kids.
Right.
So, again, God, what are you doing? But it's been great.
Yeah.
It's been really good.
That's cool.
I mean, we have our moments. I have to admit that.
Sure.
I mean,
we're not perfect.
People, but it's been good. It's been really good.
Yeah.
And my son-in-law or my stepson has 2 kids. I can't tell you ages. One of them is Chase's age, so that she'd be 8, and the other one I think is 11. I think right now, and we see them a lot, and they love to come to our house because we got the swimming pool.
Oh.
But they've also, excuse me, my kids like it because they get to be with their cousins, and they get along extremely well. So that's a lot of fun from that perspective, And then my son, I have 2 boys. Unfortunately, one was killed in a car wreck.
I'm sorry.
But Brian was a cop. He just retired, and he has 3 daughters. One just graduated from college. Got another one that's graduating from. She actually is graduated, but she's not gone through the line yet. But she will be going through the line this month. So she's graduating from high school.
Yeah.
And I have another one that's going to be starting high school this year, this next term. So I've got 7 grandkids.
Yeah. I think you got most of the ages covered too.
Yeah,
7, 8, 11.
Yeah.
High school. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
You got it covered.
Yeah, I do. The one that's college age is actually interested in music. So she's going into that field, not necessarily to play, although she does. She's had some groups that she's put together, and so I don't know how far that will go. But she also produces, and wants to kind of get in that side of things with music. So that's what her background's been. And the other one that just graduating from high school this year, kind of going to do the van life for a while. She's got a van she's been working on and preparing for a trip. Wow. And she's going to be going out to Montana. She's going to be going to a photography school out there.
Okay.
So she's all excited about that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Quite the different adventures going on in your family there.
Yes. So it's going to be interesting to see what the high school girl's going to do when she gets done with her high school career.
Yeah.
At this point, she's been big in, and I don't even know the name of the stuff anymore. Harry Potter stuff. She's really into the Harry Potter stuff. And I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But and I haven't seen any of the movies or anything else. So I have no idea what they're talking about. But they have birthday parties and I mean serious birthday parties, big birthday parties, and they always have a cake. I mean a huge cake. The family's got a friend that makes cakes, and so there's always a theme to whatever it is, and the cake is always that theme. Well, one year obviously it was a Harry Potter theme.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And placemats were we had a name that we had to associate with ourselves for the place setting. Oh. So we had our own place settings for that one. I have no idea.
You don't remember? You were some Harry Potter character.
I was some Harry Potter. Yes, some Harry Potter character.
Who would they have put?
Don't ask. I couldn't even tell you if you're right or not, or if you're close or not. I don't know. I'm just not into that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So,
Okay. Yeah, sounds like you keep pretty up to date.
We do.
With
We spend
what
a
they're
lot of
doing.
time together with them. Yes,
Good.
we spend a lot of time. Now,
Yeah.
This is not good. My son wouldn't even know about this podcast, so he won't know about this. But the 25th, my in-laws are having a party, which is normal. I mean, we always get together that weekend because it's the Indy 500 weekend, and my sister-in-law's 2 kids are big into racing. So they always get together. Now, one of the I don't even know what his relationship would be with I guess it'd be nephews. They're nephews of mine, I guess, because they're nephews of my wife. I'm never good with family trees.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one of those live in Speedway, which is right where the Speedway is for the 500. The other one now is living in Arizona. So they come in from Arizona, and we make a big deal of that weekend, okay? So they're doing it on the 25th. Well, we have a problem with this because the girl graduates from high school is graduating on the 25th.
Oh, wow.
And my son just retired from the police department in Plainfield, Indiana, and he is having a surprise birthday party. Retirement party.
Yes.
That day. So I'm going to go to. So now what am I going to do? Okay, because the gathering with the family starts about the time the graduation is going to start, and that usually goes until about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon for our party.
Yeah.
Well, Brian's party. Surprise party starts at 4.
Okay.
Now what am I going to do? Because I like to be at the family stuff.
Yeah.
But on the other side, these are pretty monumental type of events going on for Maddie and for Brian. So I've decided, well, this is a once in a lifetime for both of those. So I'm going to just go to graduation, then I'll go to the other party.
Okay.
To Brian's surprise party.
Okay. You haven't found a way to clone yourself yet?
Nope. I don't think we want more of one of me around.
I think we could do it.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Now I do know that when I was working on my master's degree, there was another guy in that class that we look like twins.
Really?
I am a twin. My twin and I don't look at all
you,
alike.
You are a twin.
Yes, I am. We don't look alike. We don't act alike. We
Okay.
are totally different.
Yeah.
But this guy in my class, when I was going to the seminary, was
your doppelganger.
My doppelganger.
You could have
called
him up. Next time you need a stand-in.
There you go. I could call him. I don't know where he's at anymore. I haven't kept up in track.
Sure.
But yeah, that would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So.
Yep. We got some audience.
I see that.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting told something here. Oh, no, they're just taking pictures of us here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. And I think if I had to give your story a title, if you had a book, maybe something like God's Providence or God Preparing You, a story of Ken Bugler. God's Directing, a story of Ken Bugler. What would you title your book?
Boy, that's a question I wouldn't have thought of. Life and Adventures of Christianity in Ken's Life.
I like it.
How's that sound?
I like it.
It's a little bit long, but that's a good one.
Adventures is a good word.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because life is an adventure.
It is.
And especially when you're walking with the Lord. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
And that's something that it pays off. You can really recall those memories, and it gives you joy now and thinking about the future and how you've affected people. And it's a good reminder for me to make those memories and to think of life more as an adventure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm going to just say something else a little bit more, just real quickly here. Chris was my son that died. And he was a very strong Christian kid. And he was starting to write music. And so that was just a joy to listen to the music that he was writing. Didn't do a lot because his life was short. He was 17 when he died, so he didn't get into we didn't even get out of high school yet. But he was learning to play guitar on his own. He was starting to do some writing and stuff like that. It was always fun to listen to that stuff. But a solid Christian kid. We didn't live there very far from the high school where Brian and Chris went to school, and so it was not uncommon for them to bring all their friends to our house for lunch or during the lunch hour. And so they would come down I have no idea what was going on because I was always working, but they would come down and my wife was home. So they'd come down and they'd just hang around our house. But that was always a good thing because some of the kids were Christians and some of them weren't.
Yeah.
And so I know that Chris had a lot of impact in the lives of people. When we had his memorial service, we had a church that was a large church. The place was packed. And what was interesting is we didn't expect, we had the funerals before that, and we did not expect to have an open casket for him. If the family came, we had an open casket for the family so that everybody could say their goodbyes to him there. But then we went to the cemetery. Excuse me, this is very touching.
Yeah.
So we got to the event, to the cemetery, and all of a sudden we start seeing there's a hill between the parking lot where people were and where we were laying Chris. And to see people coming over this hill, they kept coming and coming and coming. And they asked us, the funeral director asked us, "Do you want us to open the casket?" I said, "Yeah, we'd like to do that." They had to close it up because it was just so long. I mean, there were so many people coming to say goodbye. And we've been able to have some, over the years, have contact with some of the friends that they had, and I hear good stories about, how Chris had been involved in their lives. That was cool.
That is really cool.
And I know one guy walked away from the Lord for a while, and I happened to see him at a store that we were doing some furniture looking, and he was there, and so we got to talking, and it was his death. Chris's death was very, very difficult for him, but he said he made a real impact on my life, and that's what brought me back to Christ.
Wow.
So,
isn't that something?
Yeah.
That is.
An adventure.
An adventure.
Not the adventure that you want.
No.
But still a part of the adventure.
Yeah, I would not. I'd not wish that.
Nope. Never expect it.
Never expect it.
Never expect it. But God works.
But God works
in mysterious ways.
He really does. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's been a long time ago, but it's still hard.
Yeah. And to know that it wasn't without reason.
Exactly. And, there may be more to it than I know.
Sure.
We'll find out then.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But I know I'll see him again.
Yeah. We can hope and look to that day.
Exactly.
The restoration, all be restored.
Yep.
And you'll be able to create more memories with him.
You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha.
That'll be a great day.
Yep. Sure will.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate your heart, Ken.
Thank you.
Sharing these things. And before we wrap things up, we have a little game that we like to play.
Okay.
Just to tie things off at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Would you be down
kind of like that thing?
Kind of like that one we did at the beginning. So.
All right. Sure. Ready? Go for it.
It's called Hot Takes, and I'm going to share a thing, and you can say if you agree or disagree with it. So the first one is prison food, yay or nay?
Yeah. I've had it. It's not good.
Not good?
Not good.
Okay. Yeah.
So, no.
No. I visited once. We did a tour, and they gave us what they had for that day. And I would agree. I would not go for it again.
No.
So.
No, I've actually visited several prisons and had their food and that good stuff.
Okay. There's not any of them that.
Not that I would want to eat.
Stand outside of the others?
No.
Okay.
No.
Maybe peanut butter and jelly.
Maybe. That might even be questionable.
Yeah. All right. Convertible or motorcycle?
Motorcycle, by all means. I did have my ex-wife, I did buy her a convertible for a while. She wanted to have this car. She had to have this car. And so we got her the convertible. Somebody had a car that broke down, so we let her borrow that car for a little bit. Well, she ended up with an accident and cracked it up. So that car went away. But, yeah, motorcycle all the way.
Okay.
All the way.
No convertible.
No convertible.
Even if it's given to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. There's another quick story about motorcycling. There was another church in Bloomington that was a bikers. We call it a biker church because a lot of guys were motorcyclists, and a lot of them came out of the drug and alcohol realm, and had turned their lives around, and this church was just known for that kind of group of people. Well, I don't know if you remember a bunch about the men's stuff that was going on back in the 70s, I guess. They had these big rallies, and they were going to have one in Washington, D.C. So a bunch of us decided we were going to ride motorcycle to Washington, D.C.
Right.
Now, Brian had been there for the summer and was going to a church there, and so he knew the pastor, and so when we decided we wanted to go to D.C., we needed a place to stay. So I asked Brian if he could make an introduction for me to see if it would be possible for us to go to the church and spend the night there. We just sleep on the pews or on the floor or something like that, whatever we needed to do. And so he made the introduction, and everything went fine. These people were awesome. I mean, they had breakfast for us, a huge breakfast in the morning before we took off. They had made lunches for us. They had water bottles for us. I mean, they just all went all out. This was great. But the funny thing about this is this. Most of the guys that were riding had Harley Davidsons.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you know much about Harley Davidsons.
No.
But if you look down a highway, you ride on the highways much, what motorcycles do you see advertised most of the time?
Yeah, Harley.
HDs, right?
Okay.
You know why? Because if you're going to go down the highway, you're going to be riding on a Harley Davidson, you need to know where the next place is you're going to have to stop at because you're going to break down. So there were two of us that were riding Go Wings. There was one that was riding a Yamaha. Out of all the people that we were riding with, all the HDs broke down somehow.
Okay. Yamaha?
The Yamaha did not break down.
Okay.
And neither one of us riding our Go Wings broke down.
Okay.
Did I let them have it? Oh, yeah. Once in a while, if I run into them, I still remind them of that.
Hey, that's a fact.
It is.
You can bring it up.
It is. And sometimes, the thing when we got to D.C., this is another funny part of the whole thing, I think. When we got there, we actually took the train down to the mall, okay, in D.C. And most of these guys had never been outside of Indiana. And so I would consider them to be hicks, okay? And one of them was the funniest guy. He got on there and he's holding on to the strap, as he's standing there. I'm riding the Metro. I'm riding the Metro. He was so excited about riding the Metro. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
it was absolutely
sounds like my
hilarious.
First time in New York when I rode the subway. I probably felt similar to him.
Well, I used to ride the subway. I got my bachelor's degree from Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, so I rode the L all the time down there. So I was always in the subway or the L. And, so it was no big deal for me. But it was kind of fun to watch that, watch him, especially him.
Yeah, that's cool.
Riding the L.
So you have a Go. What do you drive
now?
What's your motorcycle?
The one I have now is called it's a Honda, and it's what they call an XTV. It's a VTX. Sorry, VTX 1300. Okay. 1300 cc's. It's a touring bike.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't been able to ride since I've been driving for Nussbaum. I don't have time. I get home, I've got work to do.
Let's see if we can fix that.
Yeah, I'd like to do, but no. When you got a house, you got things you got to do around the house.
For sure. When you're back, you're working on the house.
That or playing with the kids, doing something with the kids, So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it sits in the garage right now. I start it up once in a while just to make sure it's still running okay.
Still there.
But if I get on to go anywhere, I go to the store and turn around, come right back, and that's about it. And that may happen once a summer.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's all right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's part of life.
Yeah, that is.
So one of these days, maybe I'll get on it and be able to go someplace again.
Yeah, definitely.
So
bring it back.
Exactly.
Next hot take is mountains over the beach.
Mountains. Mountains. I'm not a sand guy. I mean, I love the ocean. I love sailing. Going on cruises. I love those, but I'm not a sand guy. So if I had my choice, I'd be in the mountains. I love the mountains. I love to be in the mountains.
Yeah.
So when I did my West Coast training, awesome. awesome.
You love that.
Oh, that was the great trip.
Yeah, driving through the Rockies
Yes.
and
Jason Van Berber was my trainer.
Good.
I listened to him on one of your casts. So it was great. And I gave him my phone. I said, take the pictures. You should see how many pictures I got in there. Oh my gosh, I've got so many pictures as we went through and that was that year. There was a horrible rainstorm where Yosemite got rained out.
Oh wow!
Do you remember that?
No.
And people couldn't go.
You couldn't go
anymore.
in.
They couldn't go. They couldn't because there was so much water.
Wow.
I mean, the major floods. And so that was when we were going through there, and we actually went along some of the river banks. And it was high, but it was so beautiful, so beautiful out there.
Yeah.
And Alaska, I love to go up to Alaska. I've been up there.
You've been there?
Oh, I love it up there too.
Okay.
So again, mountains.
Okay, Anchorage.
Yeah. Well, I was on a cruise for that one.
Okay, good.
And so wherever the cruise stopped.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and that was a Christian cruise, by the way.
A Christian Alaska cruise.
Yes.
I didn't know they make those.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's the Southern Gospel Singers.
Okay.
Again, so there are a bunch of different groups. And so we had a lot of concerts. Those were usually in the evening. And they had Bible studies during the afternoons, preaching in the afternoons. It was great. I loved it. I loved it.
Cool.
One of the weird things about that is that when we went in, we weren't allowed to go into to see one of the glaciers we wanted to see.
Sure.
Because we were considered to be a private boat. I mean, we were a regular cruise liner, but we were all Christians on that boat.
Sure.
And so we were not authorized, if you will, because we were a Christian boat, to go into this particular park to see the cascading of the glaciers and that kind of thing.
Oh wow.
So we got close to some of the glaciers, but not to this one particular area where there was a lot of calving going on.
Yeah, you couldn't
go. It would
go
have been fun to see that.
Right up to it and watch it.
Right. We had a naturalist on board with us, so we learned a lot about all of it, but we just didn't get the chance to see as much as I'd like.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be able to go back.
I'd love to, but my wife is not into cruising.
Okay.
She's never been on a cruise yet, and I've wanted to go on one, but just way too many issues going on with that one right now. So whether we'll ever get a chance to do that, I'll be happy. But and when I get to heaven, there's a book that I read. It's called Heaven, written by Bruce Alcorn. Okay. And Bruce, it was basically what heaven's going to be like. And one of the things he talks about in there is that we're all going to have a job.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I want to be a cruise director. That was my actually. That's what I wanted to be. When I get to heaven, I want to be a cruise director.
Okay.
Whether that'll happen, if that happens or not, I don't know if we have that kind of job.
Yeah,
but
who knows?
Who knows? You never know.
Yeah. Mine would be National Geographic videographer.
Oh, yes.
Just I don't know if National Geographic would be a thing in heaven, but if it was, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
To travel, see animals, get their video and stuff.
Yes. Only thing is you can't see them. Being in the natural state that they would be in today, couldn't see tigers and lions and bears, tearing other animals up. So, because it's not going to happen in heaven. But anyway,
interesting thought question though. What's your job in heaven?
Yep.
If there are jobs in heaven, and that's
I think the scriptures talk about it.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to be.
Yeah,
but I think
it's not going to be boring.
No, heavens,
it's not going to be sitting in a cloud and
strumming on our harps.
Nope.
Nope. It's something else, and this is just a thought. I don't know. This has nothing to do with anything we've been talking about, apart from just talking about heaven, Jesus. It talks about the fact that we're going to be with Him. Okay, so there's going to be billions of us up there.
Sure.
How is He going to be with each one of us individually?
Right.
Jesus Himself. I mean,
right. I've thought about that before.
I don't know how that's going to happen. So it's exciting to see. It'll be a good thing to see how that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. We'll be with Him.
Yeah. All of us at one time. How's that going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, He's not going to have a bunch of little Jesuses running around.
No, that would be weird.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good,
Weird.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Food for thought. That's
weird
good.
how that developed from oceans or sea or mountains.
Right. I know, right? How do we get there?
I migrate a lot.
All right. Very last one.
Yes, sir.
Hot take.
Okay.
God does not have a plan with our lives.
Nope. He does. By all means. By all means. Scripture is very clear about that. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. What does that say? He's obviously got a plan. Yeah, I have a plan for you.
I think we can learn that from your life too.
Yeah,
I believe so.
I agree.
So
I agree.
Yeah. Any shout outs you would like to have for people listening to this?
No, not particularly, because I don't know who anybody that actually listens to this. So because I'm just too new to it.
That's all right.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd say to anybody who's listening, if you don't know the Lord, you need to come to Jesus. He's going to be the best thing you can do. That'll be the best decision you can ever make.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Ken.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you for being here, Ken. Thank you for listening. And until next time, stay purpose-driven and own it every moment.
Hi, everyone. This is CJ from Recruiting at Nussbaum, and I'd love to answer any questions you have about driving with us. Give us a call at 309-268-1199 or visit nussbaumjobs.com. Talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation. If you're enjoying our content, please leave us a review. Your reviews help us spread the word about these important topics and invite more people into the conversation. You can rate and review us on your podcast app or visit us online at terminalexchange.org. New episodes arrive every other Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Nussbaum on your favorite social media platforms and be the first to know when new episodes are released. Thanks for listening. Until next time, own every moment and stay purpose-driven.